Well, I was going to make a post, but it seemed like it was getting too long, so I just made a quick video to kind of show you what we're dealing with in our industry right now and what a lot of people in Utah are dealing with this year. As it gets cold in the winter, it freezes different pipes, and this is the most common pipe to freeze. It's called the hose bib, or it's, your hose bib right here. And what that is people will leave their hose on in the winter, and it will keep water in the hose bib, and then that will freeze, and then that will break. So let me show you what this means, just to give you a better idea. This is a hose bib, and as I turn this off, obviously as I turn this, it turns it on and off. But it doesn't turn it on and off right here, it turns it on and off back here. So you've got this much hose or pipe that has water in it if you keep the hose connected. And so I'll pull this apart, and it shows you right here I'm turning it, and this is where it's going to be turning it off to the line. And so it's important that that people remove their hoses, but if this does freeze, you won't know until the spring because it's popped on this side of the line. And so as you turn this on, it starts leaking into the house. This particular hose bib broke. I don't know if you can get a zoom in on this, but it popped right there. And as that person turned on their hose, they went out and watered their lawn and sprayed things off for about 2 hours. And the whole time they were out there doing that, this water was spraying right into their basement. And so as they use their pressure washer or whatever, their little nozzle, as they turn it off and they wouldn't have it spraying there, it would continue to spray into the basement. And so what happened in the house that this came from, the water spread through the ceiling, dropped the ceiling, filled up the walls, and then spread through the basement. And so this is a big concern. It has been. A couple years ago we had a real cold winter, and created a lot of these. And then this year we also had a really cold week, which created a lot of these hose bib breaks. And the best way to prevent this from happening, if it did pop on your house, is you do this. You come in, you hook up a hose to it, and then you stop the hose with like a nozzle that you can turn off so there's no water flowing through the hose. So you turn it on, there's no water flowing through the hose because you have a nozzle, and then you go in and you listen. If the water's still sounding like it's running, you may have a leak. And so you go down, or you send someone down into the basement or wherever that's coming into the house, and you listen. And we'll show you what I'm talking about that in a minute. But we're seeing it's very common. It's what we call the hose bib season. And so just before you turn on your hoses, go out, have someone help you check it and make sure that there's not a problem. Okay, so now we're inside the house. And from inside the house, sometimes, most of the time, you can't see where the hose bib comes into the house. And so in our case, the hose bib is coming into the house somewhere around here. And so it sticks in, like we had mentioned earlier, it sticks into the house and sticks in a few inches. And so that hose, that water, could be spraying on the ceiling and into the walls. And so it'll fill up, or it'll start spraying and spreading out through the ceiling, but it'll also start coming down the walls on the inside of the walls. Now, these are exterior walls, and they may have a vapor barrier, so a plastic sheeting that goes up as a vapor barrier, but also it's going to have insulation. And as that insulation and that vapor barrier gets wet and that drywall gets wet, that's what we're more worried about than we are the carpet and pad. Most people are worried about the carpet and pad. We know that the hardest thing to dry is what we call the seal plate. It's the base plate under the wall. And so it's a piece of wood, a 2x4, that studs stand on top of. And as that water comes down the wall, it just sits there and saturates into that wood. And that's where that's where we focus most of our efforts, is on that seal plate. The carpet and pad we can dry no problem. It's that seal plate, because that water will want to get rid of it, or that wood will want to get rid of the water. And as it does that, it's going to keep getting the backside of the drywall wet. The backside of drywall is cardboard, which is a food for mold. And that's why many times people will have thought they dried out a hose bib leak and then have mold later, because what they dried out was what they could see. They may have dried out the drywall that they could see, and also the carpet and pad. But the most important thing was that seal plate. And so we'll come in and we can, with a thermal imaging camera, look through the whole wall, or look at the whole room, and see where we're wet, or see where there's moisture, or see where it's hot and cold. And so we'll come in, we'll take a look at that, and we'll know before we have to do any sort of demolition. And so that's how we can see it like this. I'm going to show you what the seal plate looks like. I mean, we've all seen it. It's in the unfinished side of the basements. Okay, this is the seal plate, or the base plate, that we're most worried about. We just want to make sure this gets dry, because this is touching sheetrock. And so we want to make sure this cardboard isn't getting wet. When that cardboard gets wet, that acts as a food for mold. So if the other conditions are there, mold can grow. So that's what we're trying to get. That's what we're trying to get dry. That's our main focus when we're drying a structure out. Now, this is also the place that we're going to want to listen to the walls and just listen in this area when we go out and turn on the water where we have it turned off, where we have the hose clamped, or we have it so no water's going through the hose. The faucet's on, but the water's not running. And so we'll come over here and we'll listen. We'll listen for a couple of minutes trying to see if we hear anything. Most likely you're going to either hear a big rushing water sound or running water still when you turn it on, but it's not running outside, or you're going to start hearing drips as water is spraying in a pinhole and it's dripping down after it starts to accumulate. So you want to spend a couple of minutes here listening, watching the carpet, and maybe even watching the ceiling to see if sheetrock or paint starts looking wet.